Multiverse of Madness is the sequel to Doctor Strange and the newest movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was easily one of my most anticipated movies of the whole year. I am a massive fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I am a massive fan of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I think he was the perfect choice to play this role. I think he's only shown that in every movie he's been in. I became that much more excited for this movie when I found out Sam Raimi had been chosen to direct it. Sam Raimi is very famous for directing the Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire, and also known for directing the Evil Dead movies. And I think he was the perfect choice to direct this movie, seeing the fact that Marvel intended for this movie to be kind of a blend of superhero and horror. After seeing it, Sam Raimi was absolutely the perfect choice for this movie because I think he really did a great job here. And there's a lot I gotta say about this movie, and there's going to be some spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness yet, well, you've been warned. So this much goes without saying. Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange is great in this movie. I love seeing him continue to grow as a character. I like seeing more of his, well, not really emotional side, but more of his caring side. And he's always kind of come off as, just the kind of house character, like, the Doctor House from that show. Like, he's always reminded me a little bit of him. Like, doesn't really care, doesn't make it obvious that he cares. In this one, you see a little bit more of that here. I like seeing it. I like seeing vulnerability in characters. But right out the gate, what I really want to get into in this movie is what they did with Wanda, what they did with Scarlet Witch. Elizabeth Olsen gives easily her best performance as Wanda in the MCU in this movie. Wanda was fantastic here, and what I loved, a lot of people may not have felt the same way, but I love that they made her the villain of this story. I mean, going into this movie, I never in my wildest dreams thought that she would be the villain of the story. I thought she and Doctor Strange were gonna team up to help America Chavez in this story. No trailer gave any sort of implication that she was going to be the villain, and she was a great villain. It just made sense to me after the events of WandaVision, where, she kind of brainwashed an entire town to abandon their lives and basically play house with her. I mean, it was some pretty dark, messed up shit that she did. And we saw at the end of that, she became invested with this evil book that helped her understand the power of dark magic, and we now see that she's really been invested into that, and it's really been corrupting her, and it has made her more powerful. It kind of made sense that she would be the villain, but what I love seeing in her is you do see her side of this story. You see why she's doing what she is doing. She wants to get a hold of America Chavez, who has the power to jump through the multiverse. She wants to control her power so she can be reunited with her two boys that she, encompassed herself, basically created in her little town in WandaVision. Had to lose them when, she lost control of that, but she has experienced in her dreams that they are still out there, and she wants to be united with them. You hear her motivation, you hear her reasoning, and it doesn't really make you hate her. She's just a mother who wants to be reunited with her kids, and she will go at any length to make that happen. That's the other area in this movie that I really want to give it props to. I love the way they explain how the multiverse works. I thought it was really unique how America Chavez really explains, when you have dreams, when you experience what goes on in dreams, what you are actually doing is you are experiencing alternate versions of yourself from a different universe. When you dream and you experience that, you're actually basically transmitting your consciousness into another multiverse version of yourself, and that is what you are dealing with. It was a thought that never occurred to me, and I thought it was really an incredibly smart premise for how the multiverse would work. America Chavez is also another character that I definitely need to touch on. I was a little unsure on how I would feel about her character. I didn't really know a whole lot about her character. I know she's one of the newer ones in the Marvel Comics, so I wasn't really sure just what she would immediately come in and bring to this franchise. Thankfully though, Sachi Gomez I thought did a great job at portraying America Chavez. I hope I pronounced the actress's name right, but I thought she was great here. She's witty, she's sarcastic, she has a little bit of the typical young superhero issue. She has this great power, the ability to jump through the multiverse, but she can't control it, and Doctor Strange kind of has to take her under his wing. It's kind of like the role that people thought Doctor Strange would play to Spider-Man in No Way Home, how he would be his new mentor. It wasn't exactly like that. It feels more so in this case. It feels like here he has become the mentor to this girl. Also, as I mentioned earlier in this review, I thought the element of horror in this movie was very well blended. I heard a reviewer sum it up perfectly. This could feel like a gateway movie towards horror movies because people, younger audiences even, will want to see this movie simply because it's a Marvel movie. But it has enough horror elements in it to maybe entice people who aren't really into horror movies to go seek out horror movies. I can say for myself, I've never really grown up a horror movie fan. I've gotten a little bit more into them because I've always said, if you can bring me a horror movie with an interesting concept, like the Quiet Place movies, for example, that definitely got me a lot more into horror movies, I will give them a chance. You could say the same could go for other people who are kind of in the same boat that I was in. They may see a Marvel movie like this one, which is part of a genre that they're really into. It has those elements in there as well, and it might get them into it a little bit more. But I will say, when this movie does want to use the horror elements in it, they hit. Like, this movie has a really creepy, spooky, unnerving atmosphere at times. Like, some people out there may feel that you shouldn't bring younger audiences into this movie. At least, like, you know, the under 13 audience into this movie. And to be honest, I'd agree with that. It might be a little too scary for the younger kids. I mean, there are moments where Wanda is hunting America Chavez, and Doctor Strange has to protect her, and he's trying all these different spells and magic maneuvers to try to get away from the Scarlet Witch. But Scarlet Witch is so powerful at this point with her own magic that, you know, she's hunting them through these different mazes and spells that have been created, but it creates for such a really tension-filled atmosphere that you're sitting there just like, oh gosh, what's gonna happen, what's gonna go on, and something pops out and just, you know, comes out and you're just like, oh shit, wasn't expecting that. Also, I'm gonna say this right now, what shocked me, like what I was really not expecting with this movie, is the level of gore. I mean, there is a fair amount of blood in this movie, way more than I have seen in any MCU movie, and when people die, yeah, it's a little bit graphic. We see characters have their heads explode and get chopped in half and just get absolutely just torn apart. I'm just like, I watch some of these scenes, I'm just like, whoa! This is PG-13, right? That's what I'm gonna say. This is a hard PG-13. When people die, it's pretty brutal. It's not quite Logan or Deadpool level brutal, but you feel it. And that's what I appreciate here. You really see a lot of Sam Raimi's touch in this movie, not just with the superhero element, but with the horror element. I feel like the MCU just really stood back and let him direct the movie. I love when the studio doesn't get too involved, when they decide, alright, we're gonna trust in the director, let him do the work. And he did a really good job here. I do, however, need to get into some of the flaws with this movie, because I do have a couple. There are certain characters in this movie that I wish played a bit of a bigger role. Starting with Mordo, who was, you know, the sorcerer that befriended Doctor Strange in the first Doctor Strange, but by the end of that movie, we saw that he was becoming a villain. I assumed, going into this movie, that he would be one of the villains of the story, if not the villain of the story. He's not. Basically, the Mordo we get in this movie is an alternate universe version of him. In this version, he is the Sorcerer Supreme of this universe. He sits on the Illuminati Council, or maybe just the Illuminati. I'll touch on them more in a minute. But really, he gets this portion of the story, and that's really it. He doesn't do much more. He doesn't really bring a whole lot more. I really did like his character a lot in the first Doctor Strange. I would have liked to have seen more of him. But now let's get into what was definitely the big thing about this movie. That was the Illuminati. Not so much the Illuminati, but certain characters that were on it. So let's get into that. We knew from the trailer, I mean, if you were listening closely and you paid attention, I mean, we all knew that Patrick Stewart was going to appear as Professor X, which was awesome. I like seeing him back in this movie. I like seeing him be his Professor X self. I do hope at some point we do get an X-Men movie run by the MCU, and he appears as Patrick Stewart. Wait, no, Patrick Stewart appears as Professor X, fuck am I saying? But we get a few different characters as well. We get an alternate version of Captain Marvel, who's played by, I believe, the actress who plays Carol Danvers' best friend in Captain Marvel. We also get Agent Carter, Peggy Carter, as basically, you know, the new Captain America. If you watch the What If series, you know who the character is. We also get the character Black Bolt, who I know basically nothing about. I know he's part of the Inhumans, so I don't know, maybe we're gonna get a new Inhumans thing in the MCU. But let's talk about the biggest cameo that is in this movie. John Krasinski as Reed Richards. That's right, John fucking Krasinski appears in this movie on the Illuminati as Mr. Fantastic. Full on in the Fantastic Four uniform and everything, and it was awesome to see. I mean, that right there just gets you hyped for a bunch of different reasons. Looks like now he is confirmed to be Mr. Fantastic in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. I mean, we still don't know if Emily Blunt's going to be Susan Storm. I hope that happens, but, you know, we can't wish for everything. But, thankfully, John Krasinski was the fan favorite to be Reed Richards. Looks like he's going to be. And we don't see a whole lot of him, but I do love what we did see from him. He was very intelligent, well-spoken, carried himself well. I saw comments on YouTube basically talking about the whole thing. In this version, we have Ultron drones that work. And I think someone mentioned, like, these Ultron drones were built by Reed Richards, and this is why they haven't turned against society, because he, being the smartest mind in the entire Marvel Comics, he's the one who was able to perfect the Ultron experiment. They don't confirm that in the movie, but it wouldn't surprise me if that is true, and that would pay homage to the genius that is Reed Richards. But yeah, point is, looks like John Krasinski is officially confirmed as Mr. Fantastic. If he's not Mr. Fantastic in the actual Fantastic Four movie, I would be shocked and very disappointed by that. But as of right now, let's just assume he's going to be, and it was great to see him here. But here is my flaw with the Illuminati. Having them in this movie, having all these characters in this movie, I do wish they played a bit bigger of a role that they had. This is part of the reason why I like to wait a few days before I give a review for you guys, because I need the hype to die down a little bit. I need my excitement and my fanboy to just chill for a minute. Because if I were to give you this review immediately after I saw this movie, I would just be excited out of my mind and tell you guys how great it is. Now that it's been a few days and I've had to process it a little bit, my answer for you guys is this. As much as I loved seeing the Illuminati and seeing certain characters appear, I didn't feel they brought a whole lot to the story. You know, they had their moment in this universe. They meet with Doctor Strange. They basically explain kind of what's going on and, you know, the danger with America Chavez and the danger with Scarlet Witch. And at some point, Scarlet Witch, you know, uses, you know, her dark powers to basically transport her consciousness into the Scarlet Witch that's in this universe. She goes to the Illuminati, goes after America Chavez, and she just lays waste to everyone on the Illuminati. Everyone dies. You know, Mr. Fantastic dies, Captain Marvel dies, Charles Xavier dies. She kills all of them, and some of which pretty brutally. This is kind of what I alluded to earlier about, you know, some graphic deaths. This is basically where all of it happens. First of all, I will say this much right now. I think after seeing that, I think Scarlet Witch is definitely the most powerful Avenger. I mean, if she would still even count as an Avenger. I mean, everyone was trying to say Captain Marvel. I was on the team for Thor for a while, but after seeing what she's done in previous MCU movies, and WandaVision, and now in this movie, I think I gotta give that title to her, because she's unstoppable. I mean, it's insane. But that being said, the Illuminati had their thing, they have their little meeting with Doctor Strange, and then they all die. I was thinking to myself, if they were taken out of the movie entirely, I don't think the movie would be all that different. We'd be down one action scene, and that's really all it is. You know, I look at Spider-Man No Way Home, and that had a lot of cameos. It had a lot of appearances from a lot of different Marvel characters. But the ones that made the appearance, you know, the villains and the other Spider-Man, yeah, spoiler alert, but come on, you've seen No Way Home by now. They all, when they showed up, played a very pivotal role to the movie. Like, if they weren't in the movie wouldn't have been as good. Like, they brought something to the characters, to the story, to the action scenes. They were essential. In this movie, the cameos we got, I didn't feel like they mattered as much. Some people might be upset that it wasn't Cameo Palooza like a lot of people were expecting it to be. I wasn't upset by that. I wish the ones that made cameos just played a little bit more into the story. But anyways, I'm gonna jump just straight ahead into the final action scene of this movie because I think the final action scene of this movie is awesome. At this point, Doctor Strange inherits, or he starts using the dark magic a little bit on his own, something he's not really supposed to do, but he does, to basically transport his consciousness into a dead Stephen Strange from another universe, and through that power, he becomes Zombie Strange and controls like these evil, like demon ghosts that he uses to fight Scarlet Witch after she tries to take control of America Chavez's powers. I really love that scene. I love seeing the dark magic. It's really creepy. It definitely has a bit of an Evil Dead vibe. It's an exciting and thrilling final battle. Also in this movie, America Chavez, she finally learns to control her powers, and you actually see that she's got quite a bit that she's packing. Like, I'm actually excited to see what they do with her character going forward. I didn't think I'd feel that way after the movie, but I definitely do. I will say this much. I really love how they wrap the story up with Scarlet Witch. She finally does get what she wants. She's able to transport herself into another universe. She, basically almost takes out that universe's version of herself. And, she sees her two boys there, but they are horrified of her. They think she's this evil witch. They think she's this monster. And, she's trying to play like, no, I'm not a monster. I'm not evil. I would never try to hurt anybody. I just wanted to be your mom. And, it kind of begins to dawn on her in this moment, kind of what everyone's been warning her throughout this movie. It's like, you can try to get to your boys as much as you want to. The reality is this: you're never going to really be their mom. Like, your kids don't exist in your universe. You belong in your universe, and they just don't exist there. It's kind of in that moment. She kind of has that, epiphany. She's like, yeah, what everyone said is true. Like, I have done some really horrible things to get to this point, and at this point, my kids don't want me because they don't see me as their mom. No matter what I do, this version of me is not going to be their mom. That version of me is going to be their mom. So there's really nothing I can do. And she does kind of have that Dr. Octopus moment. She's like, I need to destroy the evil book that gave me this power that kind of caused all this to happen. I need to destroy that thing so nobody has to be corrupted by it again. And, it kind of feels like the Doc Ock sacrifice in Spider-Man 2. Like, she destroys the book, basically saying, like, I'm not going to die a monster, and you feel like she sacrifices herself doing that. I mean, you don't really see her body. There's no real confirmation whether she's dead or alive. I want to say she gave herself the hero sacrifice, but who knows? Maybe we'll see her again in future MCU movies. I will say this much. With the multiverse, it opens up a ton of different possibilities for the MCU and where it could go. I think that's also part of the excitement with this movie. We could see a lot of different directions with this franchise now. We got a taste of it in No Way Home. We got the full entree here in Doctor Strange 2. So, I'd be interested to see how they choose to take the rest of the story. It could be interesting. Oh yeah, we do get a post-credit scene. We get a couple, but the mid-credit scene is one I'm really going to talk about. Doctor Strange, he's been a little corrupted because he used the dark magic for the Zombie Strange spell. It's giving him this third eye. I don't really know what the third eye means. To be honest, I don't really know much what this mid-credit scene means. I mean, he meets Charlize Theron, she plays a sorceress, and she's like, you have to come with me to the Dark Dimension, which I assume is leading to Doctor Strange 3. So, I don't know, and that's it. So, I have no idea who she's playing. I don't know that character, but I was talking about it with a friend, apparently, because he didn't know who this character was either, but there is a storyline where he journeys to the Dark Dimension, basically goes to Hell, or the Marvel version of Hell, and he has to team up with Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, and Blade to take on Mephisto. I think that's in the comics somewhere, and I gotta tell you right now, I'm really fucking hoping that's what happens. We've gotten Moon Knight, Blade is announced and is official, and we haven't gotten Ghost Rider yet, but that's a possibility. And I gotta tell you, I really want to see that because that sounds fucking awesome. But all in all, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I had a really good time with this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch, he fucking kills it as Doctor Strange. I loved Scarlet Witch as the villain of this movie. I thought it was the perfect idea for it. America Chavez, I ended up liking her character a lot more than I thought I would. I thought the rest of the cast did a really good job. Oh yeah, Rachel McAdams, I haven't talked about her at all in this movie, but she actually plays a bigger role than I thought she would have, and I love seeing the relationship between her and Doctor Strange. It felt more like a romantic connection in this one than it did in the last one, and I liked that. I absolutely loved the concept of the multiverse. I loved the blending of horror and superhero in this movie. I thought Sam Raimi crushed it in that sense. Like I said, I do wish some characters had a bigger role, and I wish some of the cameos we got mattered more to the story. In the end, I think this is definitely a very worthy addition to the MCU, and now that we've really seen what the multiverse can bring, I'm excited to see what this could lead to in future Marvel movies. I think it could lead to something very special to really kick off this new saga of Marvel movies. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.